Hi betting experts, day 2 at the Cheltenham Festival, Wednesday, March the 13th. An early look at all the races. I do think that Wednesday is traditionally probably the hardest day for punters. There's some big fields, the handicaps look really tough, and the novice races are very competitive usually. So small stakes perhaps, but cracking racing with, of course, El Fabiolo, the highlight in the champion chase. We start off with the Bearing Bingham at 1:30. It's difficult. I think Willie Mullins obviously has held a very strong hand in this race for the last few months. I like Il Atlantique here, who's drifted out to 10-1. Now he is entered up elsewhere. I'm hoping this is the race he goes for, because I think 2 mile 5 will really suit him. He's always been highly regarded. He's very much a 3 mile chaser for next season, and he was an expensive defeat for punters to absorb at Naas in January, but I thought he did plenty there, duelling on the lead at a pretty strong pace, never really left alone. He went with zest in the soft ground, but he was reeled in late. He drifted over to that far rail, and reading Tommy Wrong picked him off. I think he'll do a lot better if he's ridden with more patience, and what is always a very big test of stamina for young horses over this 2 mile 5 furlong trip. The 2:10 on Wednesday, the Brown Advisory, a grade 1 over 3 miles. This race has been blown wide open with the defection of Grangeclare West, who's been ruled out for the season by Willie Mullins. He was my original fancy, but I do think that Monty Starr of Henry de Bromhead is a very interesting runner. He's only had a couple of runs over fences. He's a sound jumper. He's a finder for pressure. He represents an excellent yard who usually managed to find at least one winner at the Cheltenham Festival, with Rachel Blackmore booked for the ride. I like the way he found for pressure in really bad ground over Christmas. He's been laid out for this meeting since. I think 3 miles will really suit him. He's a thorough stayer, completely uncomplicated. He has been rather overlooked in the anti-post market. He's a double figure price at the moment, and I think he should give punters a really good run for their money. The 250, the Coral Cup, one of those fiendishly difficult handicap hurdles this week, over 2 mile 5, will Springwell Bay, I think, can strike for the English trainers here. I think it's going to be a pretty barren week for them, I must admit, but in the handicaps they usually have a bit of a squeak, and John Joe O'Neill's progressive sort is 4 from 7 over hurdles so far, shooting up the weights in the process. I think he'll relish the demands of stamina in this huge field. He could only finish 4th here over 3 miles on New Year's Day. I thought he had excuses there, shaping nicely, shaping like still ahead of his mark, and I don't think he's reached the ceiling of his abilities. Another one is going to go straight over fences next winter. He did get touched off at Musselburgh in their trials meeting, beaten from the front by our betting expert Nap on that day. But I don't think he did a lot wrong. That track definitely plenty sharp enough for him. He's very much a galloper. The 3:30, the day's feature, well, it looks a very one-sided contest for the Queen Mother this year. El Fabiolo's got the perfect record over fences. He's 6 from 6. He's going to be in a million multiple bets. The only negative I could find about his chance, he can flick the top of a fence. So I think the way that he can get beat is he'll go on the floor, but hopefully he'll put in a clean round. His main rival, John Bon, I can't have at all. I know he made a bad blunder last time, but I didn't like the way he backed off his fences under James Bow, and I thought he might be feeling something, and certainly curled up under pressure up the hill. El Fabioli beat him comfortably in the 2023 arc, and I think he'll do so again, possibly by quite a lot further. The cross country at 4:10, usually a race to put the kettle on, it has to be said, from a punting point of view. All the usual suspects lining up, but I do think Galvin has been laid out for this race by his very shrewd connections. He's got an overall record of 8 wins from 21 starts over fences, and he's done really well since switch to this division. You could say he was unlucky in this race last year and beaten only by Delta Work, his prolific stablemate, and I've liked his 2 runs so far this season over the cross-country course in November and December. He's not been really ridden with any enterprise. I don't think he's been fully fit. He's been weak in the market. I think they're aiming him to peak at this day, and he seems sure to go close. At around 6-1, I think he's one of the more attractive bets on a really tricky day of punting. The 450, the Grand Annual, a really good handicap this over 2 miles. They always go a blistering gallop. I've had a horse on my radar for this for about 6 months, St. Roy of Willie Mullins. Now, the thing that's tempered my confidence as race day draws closer is he ran really badly when last of 5. I thought he'd actually been pulled up at the Dublin Racing Festival. Festival. He was tailed off after about 4 fences there. He just ran inexplicably badly, but maybe they're waiting for another day. For this day, his handicap mark is extremely attractive. At the 2023 Cheltenham Festival, he ran an absolute screamer behind El Fabiolo and John Bon in the Arkle, and it shows that this course suits him ideally. I think a cold ride from out the back in what's sure to be a blisteringly strong handicap. There's loads of front runners here. I think they get racing far too soon, and hopefully St Robbie, back on his A game, he can come weaving through late. There's no doubt to me he's the pick of the weights. And finally, the champion bumper at 5:30, a race to watch and not bet in. Kishbank, I thought, was pretty taking when he made a winning debut at Punchestown in December for Gordon Elliott, and Elliott knows the time of day with these horses. But I do think this is your race just to watch. Tiny stakes if you have to play. There'll be a million cracking hurdlers come out of this race for next season. Best of luck on day 2 at the Cheltenham Festival, betting experts.